Here we go. It is a hot Friday in the summer. We're coming on the air as new reaction comes in from Americans now back on U.S. soil after being freed from Russia in that big prisoner swap deal. We're going to take you through the dramatic moments of how this all came together step by step, and we're going to hear from some of the key players. Then the Democrats had their presumptive nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris. The new details we're learning tonight about who might be her Veep pick. And in tonight's breakdown, the jobs market facing somewhat of a rocky day with numbers coming in below what experts had expected, fueling potential concern about a possible recession. We're learning and looking at this sell-off on Wall Street and what's to come next. Plus, a potential new answer coming from Congress on how exactly to protect kids online, but these bills still have to get across the finish line. Sitting down with one mother who says this could save lives. And we are live on the ground in Paris, where some athletes are facing questions around their gender. What world leaders are saying about who should be allowed to compete, coming up later in the newscast. Good day. Happy Friday. I am Tom Costello, and for Hallie, it's been an exhausting, emotional day for those three Americans back on U.S. soil after all three were released from Russia in that historic prisoner swap. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gerskovich holding on to his mother, lifting her up after landing at Joint Base Andrews outside of Washington late last night. In fact, it was just before midnight when he stepped before the cameras.
Evan, how are you feeling?
I'm all right. It was a good flight.
What about the show of support?
It's
Yeah, a bit overwhelming, he says. Radio Free Europe editor Ulsa Kurmashiva ran into her daughter's arms. And former Marine Paul Whelan giving his sister a long hug. Then talking about one of the first things he's planning to do now that he is back home.
Probably eat a steak. I'm going to Texas.
Yep, he's in Texas. Let's lay out now the new details. We're learning about how this lengthy process really made all of these scenes possible. It all started back in 2022 with the release of the WNBA star Brittany Griner from Russia. Shortly after that, Secretary of State Antony Blinken floated the idea of another possible prisoner swap with his Russian counterpart. An added sense of urgency came when Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gerskovich was detained the following year. That was in 2023. Then early this year, the U.S. told Germany of its plans to include the Russian dissident Alexei Navalny in a deal. But the situation, of course, changed when Navalny died in a Russian prison back in February. President Biden then detailed a revised deal to Germany. That was back in April. Germany agreed in June. And then the president sent the deal to Russia, which accepted it just last month. U.S. allies gave their final okay in the days after that, just 1 hour before President Biden announced he was no longer going to run for re-election. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, a key player in those negotiations, on the Today Show, talking about how this all came together.
We had to put pieces into place one by one. At that point, we had a good sense this deal would happen, but we couldn't be sure until the exchange actually occurred on the tarmac in Turkey yesterday.
Well, if you like spy novels, this will be one to read. NBC's Jesse Kirsch is in San Antonio, where those three Americans are receiving care at an Army medical center that specializes in treating released hostages. So, Jesse, what do the next few days look like for all of these three?
Yeah, so Tom, this is the facility right behind me here, and what we're told by a U.S. government official is that the three Americans who are freed and now back on U.S. soil and here will be participating in what's known as post-isolation support activities. That is the same type of activity that Brittany Griner went through when she was released from Russia back in 2022. The idea is to help these people reacclimate themselves with society because, of course, they have been held prisoner in another country for so many months, and in the case of some, for years. So that is what will be going on here. We're trying to get some details about the specific procedures and supports that they're going through right now, but we don't have more details on that quite yet, Tom.
Jesse, this has also become political, with former President Trump criticizing the swap, even as a lot of Americans are applauding, right?
Yeah, and I want to read part of what he wrote on social media, Tom, in a post. He referred to negotiators, our negotiators, but the negotiators in quote marks. He called them an embarrassment to the country. And so he is clearly voicing opposition to how this was carried out and questioning what it took to get these American citizens back home, Tom.
All right, Jesse, thank you very much. Breaking this afternoon, Vice President Kamala Harris says she's honored to be the Democrats' presumptive presidential nominee after the DNC chair announced Harris won enough delegate votes. The vice president called into a live stream event of the virtual roll call, saying she's ready to accept the nomination once the official announcement comes Monday. Take a listen.
I'm happy to know that we have enough delegates to secure the nomination. And later this month, we will gather in Chicago, united as one party, where we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate this historic moment together.
President Biden writing on X, formerly Twitter, how proud he is of her, and the campaign says the vice president is in the final stretch now of picking her running mate, potentially one of the people you see on the screen right there. A source familiar with the process says Harris plans to meet with the final contenders over the next 3 days. NBC's Dasha Burns joins me now. She's on the story. Dasha, she's got the delegates. What are the campaign's next moves, and what can we expect from the Democrat convention coming up in just a few weeks?
Yeah, Tom, it's officially almost official. It'll be officially official on Monday when the virtual roll call is over and she takes that nomination. It should be Monday evening. And from there on Tuesday, we expect her to hold her first rally with her running mate, still to be determined here. And we know that she's going to make a big swing with her running mate through a number of critical battleground states. Now, the running mate search is on. The vetting process is historically fast. We know she's meeting with contenders over the next 72 hours. Those in-person meetings will be the last round before she makes her decision. You saw those 6 leading folks in that graphic there. Again, historically fast. We're expecting her to make that announcement anytime between now and when she is out on that campaign trail with her running mate Tuesday, Tom.
Hey, Dasha, let's talk polls, shall we? We've had a lot of new polls coming out. I see one right now, came out today, has Harris up 5 over Trump. Others show that Trump is up over Harris. The problem is not all polls are created equal, right? How do we make sense of these different numbers and what the average is? And oh, by the way, will it take time for the Harris candidacy to kind of sink in and resonate with voters?
Right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, Tom. Not all polls are created equal, and not every moment in time is an accurate representation of what we're going to see in November, right? This is still largely the honeymoon period. Harris having kind of a moment as she becomes the new Democratic nominee, and we are going to see this polling change. I mean, look, as I've been talking to experts about this, they say it really depends on what your starting point is. Are you comparing it to Biden pre-debate? Are you comparing it to Biden post-debate? Are you comparing it to Trump post near assassination attempt? There are snapshots in time for each of these polls. So I think we're going to have a little bit of patience and wait for the race to sort of settle in, as we've had so many upsets and so many unpredictable and really game-changing, history-making events over the last couple of weeks, Tom.
Yeah, it's been less than 2 weeks, of course, since President Biden dropped out. So you're right. It does take a while for these things to catch up. By the way, I took a few days off last week. I was in Colorado. Honestly, nobody was watching the news, right? It was beautiful. People were outside exercising. You wonder how much they're just simply not paying attention.
Doldrums of summer right now, Tom.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We'll be back with you. Dasha, thank you very much. Other news now, the acting director of the U.S. Secret Service today provided an update on the investigation into the assassination attempt against Donald Trump and what the director calls the agency's failures. Director Ronald Rowe repeatedly said local police are not to blame, pointing to a gap in communication between agencies.
In this incident, in the final 30 seconds, which has been the focus of what happened before the assailant opened fire, there was clearly radio transmissions that may have happened on that local radio net that we did not have.
NBC's Julia Ainsley covers Homeland Security. She's joining us now. I watched that news conference. I also heard you were reporting earlier today. It sounds like it was almost a total failure of communication and coordination. The local police reported there was something suspicious. The word didn't get back to Secret Service.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the problems didn't just start that day, Tom. They actually went back to when Secret Service first got on the ground and how they set this whole thing up in the first place. And one thing we're learning is that they had 2 command posts.
Yes.
You know, command posts are supposed to be where you put everybody, a representative from every agency that's on the ground, in one physical location so that they could hear each other's radios, know what's happening, because apparently it's not as simple as just the Secret Service diving into a frequency of a local law enforcement agency. And in this case, local law enforcement said there's a man with a gun on the roof 30 seconds before he started shooting. Why didn't Secret Service snipers know that? Well, today we learned it's because they weren't in the same command center. So not only did they not hear that on their radios, they didn't have someone from Secret Service sitting next to somebody from local law enforcement to learn that. Those are some pretty critical 30 seconds if you think about what happens next.
Listen, that just seems like that's basic 101. Joint command operations mean you should be in a joint command.
Yeah.
But I did notice that the acting director, repeatedly said local police are not to blame.
Yes.
But because clearly Secret Service needs local police, and they've got a long political season ahead of them. And when the first few hours of this, it sounded like they were trying to blame the local police. Now they're trying to back off that.
I will say in the first 24 hours afterwards, we're calling people who were representing Secret Service, the press secretaries, and they were saying, well, look, that was outside of our perimeter. Yeah. That felt a local police. We know there was a huge about-face from former Director Cheadle, who just stepped down, when police unions called her and said, look, you were unfairly blaming us. And they are hugely dependent on local police.
Sure.
They've got the DNC coming up. They have UNGA with the United Nations in September. And not to mention, they're about to have another protectee whenever Harris names her vice presidential pick. So they have a lot of work coming up where they hugely need not only state and local law enforcement, but also HSI. We understand they had just about as many HSI agents on the ground in Butler as they did Secret Service. So this is not the time for them to be pointing fingers at state and local law enforcement. And as it turns out, what they are going to be looking at, communication, drone technology, which they did not use in this case, and what they can do from a planning perspective leading up to this to make sure nothing like this ever happens again.
I got 10 seconds. Are they understaffed? Do they ideally need more people?
I hear they are, but Roe keeps saying no. They say they've already hired 250 more this year, but they're still below where they were 10 years ago, Tom.
Julia, thank you. Julia Ainsley masters the beat of Homeland Security. All right, we're following some breaking news right now. The Justice Department, Julia's beat, is suing TikTok for allegedly collecting private data from millions of children. The lawsuit filed today accuses TikTok and parent company ByteDance of violating children's online privacy laws, alleging both have been illegally collecting information, including email addresses from kids younger than 13 and allowing them access to adult content. In a statement to NBC News, TikTok defends itself, saying it disagrees with the allegations, calling them factually inaccurate, and saying it's proud of its efforts to protect children. NBC's Ryan Riley joins us now. Ryan, kids younger than 13 are allowed to have some version of TikTok, at least an account. So what exactly is this allegation that the company was breaking the law?
Yeah, that's all sort of what this has to do with those accounts that were specifically designed for those kids under 13, which is typically the cutoff where most companies previously had said this is where we're going to start allowing people to use our platforms. If you look at like a Meta or a Facebook. So I think what the FCC is saying here is that TikTok knowingly and repeatedly violated kids' privacy, threatening the safety of millions of children across the country. The FTC will continue to use the full scope of its authorities to protect children online, especially as firms deploy increasingly sophisticated digital tools to surveil kids and profit from their data. And of course, the big issue here is, of course, the issue with where this data is all stored and the ownership of TikTok altogether, which has been this ongoing issue that Congress has been dealing with as well, Tom.
All right, well, you're reading my mind because it's been under congressional scrutiny for allegedly collecting user data for the Chinese government. President Biden signed a bill earlier this year saying that they would ban the app unless TikTok is sold within a year. TikTok is fighting that, but what does this DOJ suit mean for the future?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it could definitely be impacted by whatever ends up happening with this, whether this app is allowed to continue in the United States after that legislation. But, this has to do with these past practices. So theoretically, even if they were sold, this is something that they would still have to deal with down the line. This is more of like looking back, a retroactive review of previous practices or what happened in the past. So it's not like a get out of the lawsuit free card. If that happens down the line, those issues would still have to be litigated through the courts. So this will be something else that is sort of going to be on the broader TikTok story, I think, in the coming months.
All right, no end in sight. Ryan, thank you very much. Tonight, the Pentagon is detailing plans to bolster U.S. defensive capabilities in the Middle East to help respond to any potential Iranian attack on Israel. Take a listen to the Pentagon spokesperson.
And these are defensive capabilities. All of our capabilities that we have there in the region are defensive and to send a message of deterrence.
This all comes after the apparent assassination of a Hamas leader in Iran last week, as well as a top Hezbollah commander in Lebanon. Israel has not claimed responsibility for those killings, but is now bracing for Iranian retaliation. NBC's Ellison Barber is in Tel Aviv with more. Ellison, what's the mood there with three of Israel's arch enemies, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, all vowing revenge? Does something feel imminent?
Yeah, it definitely does. Things are tense. I mean, just being in the airport yesterday, you noticed how sparse it was, and that is in part because we have seen multiple airlines, and Tom, you know this better than I do, from Delta to United to European legs of flights headed into Tel Aviv. KLM making an announcement today saying, hey, we're suspending flights that are directly going into Tel Aviv for the immediate future. KLM saying they're stopping those flights until mid to late October. When you speak to people here in Tel Aviv, they know that these threats aren't just words. They expect to see action. The question is how big and how soon. You think back to April when Iran launched over 300 drones and missiles at Israel because of what they alleged was an Israeli airstrike in Damascus that killed two of their generals. This, they say, was in their territory. They blame Israel for this assassination, even though Israel has not accepted responsibility for it. They also have not denied it. And they say action is coming. And people here, they expect it, and they feel like it's going to be soon. Listen.
We are in our homeland. We don't feel any scared or something. We feel that we're going to win.
Do you think Iran will possibly get involved more directly in the war?
I think that everyone will take... I think they are. They did. I think next time it will be stronger and scarier.
So when she's saying they did, she's talking about what happened in April, saying next she thinks it will be bigger and scarier. We have heard the U.S., particularly at the Pentagon briefing today, talk about considering moves in the region to bolster what they say are defensive postures to support Israel. At the same time, there's new reporting, Tom, from Axios that in that phone call between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, Biden also said essentially, hey, knock it off. I'm not happy with how things have gone. We're going to support you when it comes to threats against Iran, but don't do this again. Don't escalate further. We need a ceasefire. We need more hostages to be released. People here, Tom, they certainly want to see that. There is frustration that hostages are still 300 plus days inside of Gaza. That, they say, was the priority, or supposed to be the priority of this war to begin with. Tom?
Yeah, I'm looking at Reuters. Reuters is reporting the French Foreign Ministry is advising French citizens to not travel to Israel, to Iran, to Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories. As you know, the French have a very long history in that region. They usually have pretty good intel, and I understand a lot of Israelis are being encouraged not to travel far from home and from the nearby bomb shelter.
Yeah, they've been told to make sure their shelters are clear, that they can access them, that they have food, power sources in case they are stuck there for days or even weeks. We saw in Jerusalem the municipality today reiterating and re-sending out those guidance issues to people who live there. Cyprus, by the way, not far from here, they are also reportedly preparing for the possibility of other countries doing evacuations into Cyprus to get people home if things escalate further here. Tom?
Ellison, thank you. We'll stay on it, and we'll be back to you. Thank you very much. Here at home, a weaker than expected jobs report today is sparking concern about a potential U.S. recession. The Labor Department reports the U.S. added only 114,000 jobs in July. That was far fewer than experts had predicted. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.3%, up from 4.1% in June, and that sent the stock market into a dive. The Dow Jones 30, industrials, the tech-heavy, biotech-heavy NASDAQ, and the broader S&P 500 all lost ground, anywhere from 1.5% to 2.5%. But the NASDAQ now down more than 10% from its recent high. And the jobs numbers have renewed concern about a potential recession. So will the Fed be forced to cut interest rates? And what are the challenges for the next president? NBC's Brian Chung has the breakdown.
Inflation under the Biden-Harris administration hit a 40-year high. And while the pace of price increases has dramatically declined since peaking in the summer of 2022, things are still about 20% more expensive than they were at the start of Biden's term. Former President Trump making it a core part of his campaign.
We will end inflation and we will make America great again.
But it's actually a second Trump term that some economists are worried about when it comes to inflation.
The outlook under Trump is decidedly more inflationary.
The primary reason for why a Trump administration could lead to price hikes, making it costlier to import goods into the U.S. Trump is threatening to slap a 60% tariff on goods from China, a top trade partner, with a 10% levy on nearly everything else coming in from abroad.
Countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China.
Mark Sobel worked at the Treasury Department under administrations from both parties.
Cost of tariffs will largely be passed on to consumers, and the Peterson Institute has estimated that Trump's tariffs could add $1,700 a year to the average household's costs.
Then there are tax cuts. A central accomplishment of his previous term, Trump has promised to extend those tax cuts and entertain new ones too, like making tips tax-free.
That might pump up demand and add to inflationary pressures.
Translation, more spending that might encourage companies to raise prices. Finally, there's Trump's pledge to crack down on illegal border crossings and deport undocumented immigrants.
By this time next year, America's borders will be strong, sealed, and secure.
Sobel warning that could force employers to pay more for labor.
Employers are going to have to bid up costs, and you're going to have to pay more as a consumer.
Trump still citing inflation as he attacks his new opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, who admits Americans are feeling the pinch.
While inflation is down and wages are up, prices are still too high.
But Biden dropping out may be helping her out. A new Bloomberg Morning Consult poll showing Harris cut into Trump's lead on the issue of inflation by more than half with swing state voters. Still, for undecided Americans, Harris will have to answer criticism that Biden policies like stimulus checks and the expanded child tax credit contributed to the inflation spike. The administration acknowledging American worries about affordability with a new push against junk fees.
On day one, I will take on price gouging and bring down costs.
While the public awaits more comprehensive plans from both candidates, the Federal Reserve is attempting to do its part to curb inflation. The central bank's high interest rates have already helped, but with new fears of a worsening slowdown in the jobs market, there are expectations it could be cutting rates at a time where inflationary policies from the White House may be on the way too.
All right, NBC's Brian Chung joins us now. All right, Brian, importantly, there are still more job openings than workers. Layoffs have not picked up. Productivity is up. But the market is clearly betting that the Fed will, in fact, cut rates in September, maybe more than a quarter point, right?
Yeah, and look, when it comes to that disappointing jobs report, this is by no standards an economy that looks like it's in recession, at least right now. There's an official organization that's in charge of calling that. They haven't called it. But look, at the end of the day, for the Federal Reserve, they've been holding interest rates high. That has had the impact of taking inflation down, but it could also have the impact of making that unemployment rate rise further. That's the reason why markets are now pricing in an overwhelming majority chance that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates by 0.5 percentage point, not just 0.25 percentage point in their next meeting in September. And by the way, there have been some questions about whether or not Hurricane Beryl had an impact on this jobs data. The BLS saying it had no discernible effect. So we'll have to see whether or not other data from July corroborates that, Tom.
All right, good info. Brian, thank you very much. When we come back, we are just getting new pictures from inside the courtroom at Justin Timberlake's DUI hearing. What he's saying went down that night and whether the judge is buying any of it. And the new clues investigators say they have found pointing to what or who may have set off one of the major fires raging across Colorado right now. Stay with us. We're back and getting our first look inside the courtroom at Justin Timberlake's DWI hearing in the Hamptons, where a judge took away the singer's license today. Timberlake appeared virtually for a hearing on charges of driving while intoxicated in Sag Harbor, New York. You may recall he was arrested there in June after police say he veered out of his lane and then rolled through a stop sign. Today, the judge suspended Timberlake's license because he refused to take a breathalyzer test, and he even threatened his attorney with a gag order. Timberlake has pleaded not guilty, telling police during the stop he was with some friends and had one martini. NBC's Chloe Malas joins us now from Sag Harbor. And Chloe, this sounds like a pretty fiery hearing. If Timberlake lost his license, what happened today?
Hey there, Tom. I was in the courtroom inside the courthouse just behind me. And like you said, Justin Timberlake appearing virtually because he's on tour right now in Europe. Now, he has pleaded not guilty. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next coming weeks because there is a court hearing scheduled for August 9th. But Justin does not have to be there. But here's what I can tell you. When I was sitting in there, it was about a half-hour hearing, Tom, and the judge spent the majority of the time admonishing Justin Timberlake's attorney for previous comments that he made. He called them irresponsible. He said he's poisoning this case before it even gets started. And really, Justin's attorney, he had previously been critical of the police, saying that they made a lot of errors in the investigation. And they have maintained that Justin was not driving while intoxicated. And here is a little bit of what the attorney said when he came out of that courthouse behind me.
Hey, we all have jobs to do, and we're obligated to zealously defend our clients. And that's what I plan on doing.
So he wouldn't take really any questions. I tried to ask him some, and he was really tight-lipped. And I don't think that that's what he was planning to do because we were all there for this press conference. We had all of our microphones, and he just came out, and he looked like he kind of had his tail between his legs because he had really been lectured to raise the bar, is what the judge said at the end. So, look, there is a tentative court hearing, Tom, scheduled for September 13th. And if August 9th, they don't really come to any sort of like a plea deal or decision, we could see Justin Timberlake either virtually or back in that courthouse behind me in September.
Okay, but no driving till then, right?
No driving. License is suspended. Well, at least in New York, no driving.
Okay, all right. Chloe, thank you very much. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Hunter Biden is now set to face sentencing for his firearms case on November 13th, just over a week after the presidential election. Remember, the president's son was found guilty on 3 felony charges back in June for obtaining a firearm when he was addicted to drugs. Under federal sentencing guideline recommendations, he could get more than a year in prison, but the judge could sentence him to more or less time than that. Number 2, the band, the 1975, is being sued after their lead singer kissed one of his male bandmates on stage last year during a festival in Malaysia. You may recall Maddie Hallie was criticizing Malaysia's stance against homosexuality and was using profanities on stage before kissing his bassist. The government slammed Healy's actions, blacklisting the band from the country and canceling the whole festival. The lawsuit is from the festival organizer, who is now seeking $2.5 million from the band for breach of contract and the losses he suffered. Number 3, one of the major fires raging across Colorado is now being investigated as a potential arson case. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Department says it believes the quarry fire west of Denver was human-caused, but could not share any other details, citing an active investigation. Fires are burning across the West, with California's Park Fire now the 4th largest in the state's history. Number 4, have you always wanted to see the Northern Lights? Well, we may have some good news for you. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, says the lights will be likely visible this weekend in parts of the Northeast, the upper Midwest, and across the rest of the northern U.S. It's due to a geometric storm watch that's been issued in anticipation of what's called a coronal mass ejection. You know, we've talked a lot about those. It's been a year of CMEs and terrific Northern Lights shows. Number 5, the United States men's soccer team has been eliminated from the Olympics. They lost 4-0 to Morocco in the quarterfinals. They had a good run, though. It was the first time the men made it this far in the Olympics since 2000. All right, to the Olympics now, where Taiwan is standing by one of its boxers as a lot of tension is bubbling around her gender. We're talking here about Taiwanese boxer Lin Yu-ting, coming off a big win today, by the way, as she took down a boxer from Uzbekistan. Both Yu-ting and an Algerian boxer are under scrutiny after they failed to meet gender eligibility tests at the Women's World Boxing Championship last year. Essentially, they have male chromosomes, despite competing as women. Meanwhile, Team USA just keeps racking up those medals as Grant Fisher becomes only the second American in over 50 years to win medal in the 10,000 meters, bringing home the bronze. NBC's Keir Simmons is live for us on the ground in Paris. Keir, also a great story in that 10,000-meter race from the gold medal winner, Ugandan, Joshua Cheptegei. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think you must have some producers there who are kind of Olympics details super fans. That's quite a question, Tom. Cheptegei, though, okay, sure, he is quite a success. He has made Olympic history with the best results so far in the 10,000. He's the first Ugandan to win a gold medal in that 10,000. So good for him. That's great. And I'm delighted to talk about something other than Team USA winning gold after gold after gold after gold. We're going to get back to that, aren't we? We're going to get back. I know we are. I can tell we're going to get back to that, Tom.
Well, all right. Well, listen, a big swimming day, but Keir, as our man on the ground, I'm not going to ask you about gold after gold. You're a Brit. You're not an American.
You are, though.
Listen, I'm not going there. What are you most looking forward to going into the weekend since you're there in Paris?
I am looking forward to Team USA winning more gold medals, Tom. Let's just take a look at what's coming up. We've got Simone Biles in the women's vault final. Already the most decorated Team USA gymnast in history. She's going to potentially get another gold. Sha'Carri Richardson in the women's 100-meter semi-final. She's a hopeful for Team USA in the 100 meters. Katie Ledecky, of course, making history in the swimming. Now she will be in the 800-meter freestyle final. Will she get another medal? She's got so many medals already for Team USA. So, there's a lot to look forward to if you support Team USA this weekend.
We all do. Keir, merci.
And we all do, even this British guy.
Okay. Ciao. All right. Still to come, where you can catch the world's largest rubber ducky making an appearance this weekend. Plus, here's something we don't see every day. Top U.S. lawmakers on both sides of the aisle actually agreeing on something. Yeah, it's true. We'll tell you what when we come back. We're back. We told you earlier about the Justice Department suing TikTok today over child piracy, as big tech and regulators are wrestling over how exactly to protect kids online. One potential answer came from the Senate this week, which overwhelmingly passed two huge bills on kids' digital safety and privacy. NBC's Julie Sirkin spoke with a mother whose son died by suicide after she says he was bullied on social media, and she says legislation like this could save lives.
Our stories are much more powerful than the money that big tech has.
The ayes are 91, the nays are 3, and the motion is agreed to.
For Kristen Bride, this is the moment that she and too many other parents have been waiting for.
We have started a movement, and we will see changes.
The Senate passing two monumental bills this week that would update data privacy laws for children for the first time in 3 decades. It would ban tech companies from collecting data on minors and hold online platforms legally liable for pushing content to kids that could harm their mental health.
We have been coming to D.C. telling the stories of the very worst day of our life.
Kristen's son, Carson, was relentlessly bullied on a popular social media app by anonymous schoolmates. According to his mom, she said she tried everything to keep him safe online. But it didn't matter. On June 23, 2020, at just 16 years old, Carson died by suicide in his Oregon home while his parents were sleeping.
Do you think that legislation like this could have helped save him?
I absolutely do.
The push led by an unlikely bipartisan duo, Marsha Blackburn and Richard Blumenthal.
These big tech companies have been aggravating a youth mental health crisis.
There are things that children should not be exposed to. You can't take them into a strip show. You can't sell alcohol. You can't sell tobacco to children. Now, we're looking at the virtual space.
Critics say the bills could lead to censorship by empowering judges to decide which kind of content harms kids. The ACLU calls the bill dangerous and says the last thing students and parents need is another act of government censorship, deciding which educational resources are appropriate for their families.
I do think it's a dilemma. We've almost waited a little bit too late.
Jose Marie Griffiths is a data privacy expert who testified before Congress the last time they made laws to protect kids online, in 1998.
What happens if these bills don't get to the president's desk?
If we don't start doing this now, the future is going to be very dangerous for young people and for old people.
Some of big tech disagrees. Meta, for example, telling NBC News it supports the development of age-appropriate standards for teens online, but rather than regulation of its platforms, they suggest app stores require parental approval at the point of download. Bride says that's not nearly enough.
We need to be thinking about the mental health and well-being of our kids with these design features that are addicting them and feeding them very, very disturbing content.
Julie, to be clear, this is not a done deal. This bill is not a done deal.
No, absolutely not, Tom. It still has a very long road in the House, and they are on recess until at least mid-September. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said he believes in the purpose of the legislation, but of course, like everything, politics comes into play, and it seems like Johnson is stuck between two sides of his own party when it comes to putting this bill on the floor. Though I have to tell you, the parents will not stop showing up here and asking House lawmakers, now that it's passed the Senate, to put this bill through and get it to the president's desk. Tom?
All right, Julie, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day. Nobody can read, watch, or listen to everything, so our bureau teams have done it for you and for me. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions, and we call it the local. Out of our Western Bureau, Portland, Oregon police are prepping for an annual street takeover they expect to happen over the weekend. Last summer's event drew massive crowds from across the West Coast, leading to traffic jams and violence on the streets. Now, state authorities say they're deploying more police in the area to handle the event if anything gets out of control. From our Northeast Bureau, the world's largest rubber ducky waddling her way to New York this weekend. She's known as Mama Duck, standing over 60 feet tall, weighing about 15 tons. She is usually seen alongside her 10-foot duckling called Timmy. The duo will appear next at a water park in Long Island. Also out of our Northeast Bureau, Johns Hopkins University set to pay $6 million to students in a COVID-related lawsuit. A judge approved a third round of payments to college students who never received refunds after paying on-campus fees at the start of the pandemic. Now the university is paying back $10 million to students, saying that while it doesn't entirely agree with the suit, it's, quote, pleased to see it all resolved. An unprecedented statement of unity tonight with top lawmakers on the House and Senate Foreign Affairs committees and their counterparts in 15 European countries, all condemning the Maduro regime in Venezuela and the results of that disputed election there. In a joint memo, the lawmakers call for transparent and independent verification of the election results, saying the regime's deliberate efforts to undermine the country's electoral process are unacceptable and must be condemned. It comes as opposition leader Maria Corina Machado says she is hiding and fearing for her life. NBC's Guad Venegas is joining us now. Guad, much of the world believes this election was stolen, but do we really expect any independent verification of the election?
Tom, it's hard to believe that the Venezuelan government or the Electoral Council would allow an independent verification or international observers to come into the country. Now, in the past, decisions made by the United States or other countries that have sided with the opposition have been identified by Nicolás Maduro as an imperialist agenda. So it's hard to believe that this will actually have any results inside of Venezuela. Now, there are certain countries that could make a difference, countries like Brazil, Colombia, or Mexico, because these are countries that have been allies of Nicolás Maduro. Now, they've chosen to stay neutral as of now, but they did release a joint statement asking the government of Nicolás Maduro and the Electoral Council to release details to be more transparency and prove how it is that they determined the count gave Nicolás Maduro the victory. That's all we've heard. And of those countries, Mexico is probably the most important one. If Mexico were to recognize Edmundo González as the winner, this would make a very big difference as being one of the biggest and most loyal supporters of Nicolás Maduro. But Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president of Mexico, did speak after Antony Blinken released a statement where the U.S. recognized Edmundo González. Andrés Manuel, the president of Mexico, criticizing the U.S., asking the U.S. not to interfere in other countries' issues. So this is what's happening now. What we should say is that the opposition isn't asking for an investigation. They are asking for proof, Tom. They want the Electoral Council to release the details on the voting machines and just the local municipalities that would then prove how it is that they say Nicolás Maduro won the election.
Okay, Guad, thank you very much. Keep us updated. When we come back, the many dire threats facing California's historic and beautiful sequoia trees. We get an inside look at the fight to save them in fire season. Coming up next. Okay, to the original right now, in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching, and this time it's all about the raging wildfires out west. Firefighters in Colorado are making progress against a number of major fires which have already killed one person. And one of those fires now is being investigated as a possible arson. Meanwhile, in Northern California, the massive park fire continues to grow, burning roughly 400,000 acres. It's now the fourth largest wildfire in the state's history. As firefighters there race to save people and homes, park rangers are trying to spare the trees. NBC's Steve Patterson takes us inside the battle to save the giant sequoias and the surprising fight from some environmentalists.
There's no good way to describe the overwhelming awe of California's General Sherman. At 3 blue whales tall, 400 elephants heavy, 2 car lengths wide, this giant among giant sequoias is the largest known tree in the world. But as we learned, even one of the biggest, baddest things nature can produce are far from invincible, especially now. We were there, inside Sequoia National Park, when a team of scientists scaled it for the first time because, well, they're worried. New sequoia threats like tiny invasive beetles are compounding climate change, producing larger droughts and bigger fires.
We now know in the era of climate change that we have fires of great intensity, and they have started to take its toll on the population.
In 2020, the Castle Fire killed about 14% of all giant sequoias. The next year, in the next fire, we lost another 5%.
We thought, wow, this could be a problem.
Sequoia expert Christy Brigham is leading the effort along with the National Park Service to protect the trees.
We had 27 groves that burned in those fires. The death of the big trees in those areas was 90% or higher. So that's not good. That's not in their evolutionary history.
The agency is now part of a larger organization, including the state, the Forest Service, and local indigenous tribes called the Giant Sequoia Lands Coalition. And they've been busy.
What you're looking at, these are actually giant sequoias. They are, of course, the seedling version. Park officials here say they planted about 60,000 of them in places where they're needed most, which is important. There's only 80 groves across the entire world.
Well, we've got another 3.5 feet to go.
But an opposing group of scientists says, well, to put it bluntly, they're barking up the wrong tree.
This was not a catastrophe. This was not the doom of the sequoia groves. It's actually, the hope for the future of these groves.
Chad Hansen is leading the charge against what the Sequoia Lands Coalition is doing. But to understand why, you have to understand how California's wildfire fighting strategy is changing. California has a history of trying to suppress every fire. Just ask Smokey the Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
But in the last few years, as wildfires got more and more out of control, the state has moved toward fighting fire with fire. At least a little bit. The idea is that controlled burns, now sometimes called prescribed burns, will help cut down on fuel for when a major fire strikes. That's not controversial, but just how much human intervention is needed is.
The way we've been doing things suppressing fires, keeping fires out of the groves, that's actually killing the sequoia groves.
Hansen points out that the sequoia's bark serves as armor, able to withstand heat that would destroy other species. And the flames are a big part of how they naturally sprout, the fire opening up thousands of tiny cones that fall from the trees, releasing seeds that eventually take root. And he's concerned about two major forest management techniques being used: thinning the forest by cutting down smaller trees and removing dead debris.
We're removing some of the very best wildlife habitat in the forest, because it turns out that a standing dead tree, what we call a snag, is actually more important for more wildlife species than a standing live tree of the same size.
Wow.
It's not even close. That's the interesting thing.
It's not even
close. Yeah.
So a dead tree has more value to wildlife than a live tree?
Far more. It's the single most ecologically important element of a forest ecosystem, hands down, no comparison.
Last year, he and several advocate groups sued the National Forest Service to stop what was coined the Fuels Reduction Project. The National Forest Service responding that its strategy is as old as some of these massive trees themselves, saying in part over a century of scientific data confirms that strategically designed fuels reduction treatments can reduce wildfire risks. Those risks just too high for the forest managers, tasked with protecting our most majestic groves. They believe that famous old General Sherman could use a human helping hand.
We're in the forever business. If you were killing 20% of all the millennial sequoias every few years, would you have this forest? You wouldn't.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Good reporting from Steve. Still to come, oh, baby, she did it again. Britney Spears out with another potential big hit, this time on the big screen. We'll tell you all about it coming up next. Okay, this is what you waited for. Learning more tonight about Britney Spears' biopic that'll be based on her best-selling memoir, The Woman in Me. Universal Pictures announced it has landed the rights. John M. Chu will direct. Mark Platt will produce. They're the minds behind films like In the Heights and the upcoming movie Wicked. Full disclosure, NBC and Universal are owned by Comcast. We've seen musician biopics before, right? Here are some of them, including Whitney Cash. I'll make that Whitney Houston, Johnny Cash. They never got married. Also Elvis. Some of those biopics grossed hundreds of millions of dollars, but a lot of them were made after artists died. It's rare to see a living superstar musician, some would even say living legend, do a biopic like this. But Britney's always been a bit of a trendsetter, so this could be the start of a new strategy for the ultra-famous and the successful. Or could it be? Let's bring in our media analyst, Paul Garabedian, for this. Paul, what more do we know about why she might do a movie like this? She's faced a lot of scrutiny in her life, right? What's the incentive here?
That's right. And I think every musical artist would love to have their own biopic and have their life immortalized on the big screen, from the Buddy Holly story to La Bamba, Bohemian Rhapsody. And as you pointed out, the fact that a lot of these artists had passed away by the time they were memorialized on that big screen, this is a little different. Britney Spears is definitely around and very famous and an icon. And I think it's really cool under the auspices of Universal, who have really hit all the right notes when it comes to putting out movies like Straight Outta Compton, 8 Mile, Wicked, upcoming. So this is like the perfect time to do it. And I think a lot of other musical artists may be a little jealous because they're going to want their own big screen treatment.
Yeah, Britney has not done a whole lot of promo for this or her book, right? Just one post on X saying that she's excited to share with her fans that she's been working on a secret project with Mark Platt. Do we know how involved she's going to be on this, or is she handing all editorial control over to him?
We'll have to see. I think she's going to want to have a hand in this. And I mean, no question that when you have an artist that has been, controversial at times, but definitely somebody to watch, I think this is going to be great for her. And, famously last year, she was doing a dance with knives, and, she's never out of the news. But I think it really is something where you have audiences interested. And to see a movie like this on the big screen is great, not only because of the huge screen, but the great sound in a movie theater. And from Taylor Swift to Beyonce and all these great music-oriented movies on the big screen, it's a big deal. for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll be worth watching, and these are movies that really do capture the public's attention. Paul, thanks very much. Good insight. We'll be watching closely. That's a wrap for this hour on NBC News Now, but the coverage resumes right now on News Now. Yeah, it's a hot Friday in August. We come on the air with a lot of news still streaming in, a reaction coming in from the Americans now back on U.S. soil after being freed from Russia in that big prison swap deal. We're going to take you through the dramatic moments, all of them, how this came together step by step. We'll hear from some of the key players as well. And then the Democrats have their presumptive nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, has now wrapped up all of the nominating numbers. The new details we're learning tonight about who her Veep pick might be, and the Justice Department taking it to TikTok in a new lawsuit. Why it says the social media giant is illegally mining kids' data. Plus the U.S. in the Middle East bolstering its defenses there as Iran threatens attacks on Israel. We are live in Tel Aviv. That city is on edge. The region is on edge. And in tonight's breakdown, the jobs market facing somewhat of a slump today, with numbers coming in below what experts have predicted, fueling concerns about a potential recession. We're looking at the sell-off on Wall Street. It was a big one, and what's to come later in the newscast. Good day. Happy Friday. I am Tom Costello in for Hallie Jackson, and it has been an exhausting and an emotional day for the three Americans now back on U.S. soil after all three were released from Russia in that historic prisoner swap. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich holding on to his mom, lifting her up after landing at Joint Base Andrews outside of Washington. It was just before midnight when he stepped before the cameras.
Evan, how are you feeling?
I'm all right. It was a good flight.
What about the show of support?
It's
a bit overwhelming. Radio Free Europe editor also Kurmasheva ran into her daughter's arms. And former Marine Paul Whelan giving his sister a long hug and then talking about one of the first things he's planning to do when he gets back. Listen to this.
Probably eat a steak. I'm going to Texas.
Yeah, they have steaks in Texas. Let's lay out new details now we're learning of this lengthy process that made those scenes possible. It all started back in 2022 with the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner from Russia. Shortly after, Secretary of State Antony Blinken floated the idea of another possible prisoner swap with his Russian counterpart. Add a sense of urgency, though, when that Wall Street Journal reporter, Evan Gershkovich, was detained the following year in 2023 in Russia. Then early this year, the U.S. told Germany of its plans to include the Russian dissident Alexei Navalny in a deal. That got the Germans involved. But the situation, of course, changed when Navalny died in a Russian prison in February. President Biden then detailed a revised deal to Germany back in April. Germany agreed in June. And then the president sent the deal to Russia. Russia accepted the deal last month. U.S. allies gave their final okay in the days after that, just 1 hour before President Biden announced he was no longer going to run for re-election. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, a key player in the negotiations, on the Today Show today, talking about how it all came together.
We had to put pieces into place one by one. At that point, we had a good sense this deal would happen, but we couldn't be sure until the exchange actually occurred on the tarmac in Turkey yesterday.
NBC's Jesse Kirsch is in San Antonio, where those three Americans are now receiving care at an Army medical center that specializes in treating hostages. And Jesse, Paul Whelan says he wants a steak. You guys have them in Texas, right?
Yeah, they've got those down here, Tom. But what we know right now is that the three rescued Americans are going to be going through what is called post-isolation support activities. That's according to a U.S. government official. And what that broadly is talking about is people getting helped with reacclimating to society. These people have been in Russian custody for months. In the case of Paul Whelan, more than 5 years. In the case of Evan Gershkovich, over a year. So, we're talking about people who've been away from home for quite some time now. So we don't have specifics on what they're going to be going through. But this is the same facility behind me where this is going on, and the same types of activities that Brittany Griner went through when she came back from Russia in 2022, Tom.
Yeah, Vladimir Kara-Murza, a Russian dissident and legal U.S. resident, was also freed in the deal, and he spoke at a press conference in Germany. Talk about what he's saying.
Yeah, and so part of what he said was he says that he will definitely be going back to Russia one day, and he says that there will be a day in the future when Russia will become a free, normal, civilized European country. So clearly a voice of defiance there after gaining freedom.
And what more are we learning? There's some real anger out there from those people and their families, those people who were not included in the swap, right? Including Mark Fogel, the school teacher from Pennsylvania. The president was asked about that today, I understand.
Yes, and the president, bottom line, said we're not giving up effectively. Here's part of that exchange.
We're not giving up. We're not giving up on that. You want me to tell you ahead of time so he doesn't get out?
Of course, former President Trump has expressed criticism of this deal, Tom, and questioning how it was put together. But no question, 3 Americans back home on U.S. soil tonight, Tom.
Yep, good news there. Jesse, thank you very much. Breaking news this afternoon, Vice President Kamala Harris says she's honored to be the Democrats' presumptive presidential nominee after the DNC chair announced Harris had won enough delegate votes. The vice president called into a live stream event of the virtual roll call, saying she's ready to accept the nomination once the official announcement comes on Monday. Take a listen.
I'm happy to know that we have enough delegates to secure the nomination. And later this month, we will gather in Chicago, united as one party, where we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate this historic moment together.
President Biden writing on X, formerly Twitter, how proud he is of her, Harris, and the campaign says the vice president is in the final stretch of picking her running mate, potentially one of the people you see on the screen right there. A source familiar with the process says Harris plans to meet with the final contenders over the next 3 days. NBC's Dasha Burns joins us now. Dasha, she's got the delegates. What are the campaign's next moves, and what can we expect from the Democrat convention coming up in just a few weeks?
Yeah, Tom, it's officially almost official. It'll be officially official on Monday when the virtual roll call is over and she takes that nomination. It should be Monday evening. And from there on Tuesday, we expect her to hold her first rally with her running mate, still to be determined here. And we know that she's going to make a big swing with her running mate through a number of critical battleground states. Now, the running mate search is on. The vetting process is historically fast. We know she's meeting with contenders over the next 72 hours. Those in-person meetings will be the last round before she makes her decision. You saw those 6 leading folks in that graphic there. Again, historically fast. We're expecting her to make that announcement anytime between now and when she is out on that campaign trail with her running mate Tuesday, Tom.
Hey, Dasha, let's talk polls, shall we? We've had a lot of new polls coming out. I see one right now. It came out today, has Harris up 5 over Trump. Others show that Trump is up over Harris. The problem is not all polls are created equal, right? How do we make sense of these different numbers and what the average is? And oh, by the way, will it take time for the Harris candidacy to kind of sink in and resonate with voters?
Right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, Tom. Not all polls are created equal, and not every moment in time is an accurate representation of what we're going to see in November, right? This is still largely the honeymoon period. Harris having kind of a moment as she becomes the new Democratic nominee, and we are going to see this polling change. I mean, look, as I've been talking to experts about this, they say it really depends on what your starting point is. Are you comparing it to Biden pre-debate? Are you comparing it to Biden post-debate? Are you comparing it to Trump post near assassination attempt? There are snapshots in time for each of these polls, so I think we're going to have a little bit of patience and wait for the race to sort of settle in, as we've had so many upsets and so many unpredictable and really game-changing, history-making events over the last couple of weeks, Tom.
Yeah, it's been less than 2 weeks, of course, since President Biden dropped out. So you're right. It does take a while for these things to catch up. By the way, I took a few days off last week. I was in Colorado. Honestly, nobody was watching the news, right? It was beautiful. People were outside exercising. You wonder how much they're just simply not paying attention.
Doldrums of summer right now, Tom.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We'll be back with you. Dasha, thank you very much. The acting director of the U.S. Secret Service today provided an update on the investigation into the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life and what the director calls the agency's failures. Director Ronald Rowe repeatedly said local police are not to blame, pointing to a gap in communication between agencies.
In this incident, in the final 30 seconds, which has been the focus of what happened before the assailant opened fire, there was clearly radio transmissions that may have happened on that local radio net that we did not have.
NBC's Julia Ainsley covers Homeland Security. She's joining us now. Julia, I watched that news conference today. I got to say I was a little stumped, because it sounds like this was a complete breakdown of communication, basic communication, radio communication between police agencies at the same event, and then a breakdown in coordination.
And that's what it all came down to, Tom. In fact, we learned today they weren't even in the same building. There was supposed to be a unified command center that, as I understand from speaking to people who've been at events like this before, that is modus operandi. You always have a command center that includes a representative from every law enforcement agency that's involved in the security of an event like this. But in this case, they were two separate command centers, so that the Secret Service, in this final 30 seconds he's talking about, didn't know that local law enforcement were trying to sound the alarm about a gunman on the roof. It could be that their radios went down, but either way, if they'd been in the same place, they would have known. So I pressed Rowe today at the press conference about whether or not they're relying too heavily on local law enforcement. Here's what he said.
There's not an over-reliance on them. They're out there every day securing their communities. They know the terrain. They know the people. More importantly, they know the local laws.
So you can see quite a sharp pushback on that. He talked about how the local law enforcement, they're the ones who are taking bullets every day. They're the ones putting people in jail. And so he has a lot of respect for them. But my question also sort of got into, is it fair to put so much on them, particularly if you see planning and things like this where they don't have a command center? Perhaps they're not on the ground early enough to walk through and show everybody where they need to be, and certainly not enough communication to decide who was in charge of that roof, Tom.
Yeah. Listen, we are deep in the campaign season. It's only going to get busier, right? The agency's own confidence is shaken. So is the public confidence in the agency. They don't have a lot of time to restore confidence or their own self-confidence.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we know that there are 4 different investigations just into what happened. One of those is an internal review inside the Secret Service that could lead to someone being disciplined or fired if it was found that they're the ones who dropped the ball and should be held accountable on July 13th. We understand they're going to be looking at security perimeters. Should they have more people of their own involved in securing something like that if there's a roof or another place that might be that close? Also today, Tom, we didn't get the sense that they're telling former President Trump that he can't do more outdoor rallies. They just said if he does decide to do outdoor rallies, they are there to mitigate the threat, not to tell him what to do. So even though it always seems like there's not enough that we understand about what happened on this day, I do think we at least got some answers, even if they weren't very assuring, Tom, today from the new acting director, Rowe.
Yeah, well, they've got to be right all the time, of course, and that's the old adage, isn't it? Julia, thank you very much. We are following some breaking news right now. The Justice Department is suing TikTok for allegedly collecting private data from millions of children. The lawsuit filed today accuses TikTok and parent company ByteDance of violating children's online privacy laws, alleging both have been illegally collecting information, including email addresses from kids under 13 years of age and allowing them to access adult content. In a statement to NBC News, TikTok defends itself, saying it disagrees with the allegations, calling them factually inaccurate, and saying it's proud of its efforts to protect children. NBC's Ryan Riley joins me now. Ryan, kids younger than 13 are allowed to have some version of TikTok. So what exactly is the allegation here against TikTok and ByteDance?
Yeah, they are. It's essentially the allegation is that they are able to access content that they shouldn't be accessing, sort of adult content, right? And that the data being collected shouldn't have been being collected, because this all dates back to prior action that the Justice Department had taken against TikTok in relation to this. So what we have here is a statement from DOJ saying the action is necessary to prevent the defendants, who are repeat offenders and operate on a massive scale, from collecting and using young children's private information without any parental consent or control. So, you know, they're being pretty strident about this. And of course, this all comes in the context of these broader questions about TikTok's future in the United States, Tom.
Well, okay, so let's go there. TikTok has been under congressional scrutiny for allegedly collecting user data for the Chinese government. That's the allegation. President Biden signed a bill back in April that would ban TikTok unless TikTok is sold within a year. So what does this DOJ suit then mean for the future for TikTok and also the ongoing litigation?
Yeah, it's still going to continue to go on, because this is really just about past action. So, right, this isn't going to clear the decks for them even if they were to bring, even say theoretically, had the company been sold to American ownership, this would still continue on. This would be a burden they would still sort of bear, because you don't sort of get out of a lawsuit free card in that sort of scenario. So they're going to have to still deal with this no matter what the future of TikTok is. And it's about those past actions, because, you know, if you get a parking ticket and you say, oh, we changed our policies going forward, you're still going to have to pay that parking ticket. So that's sort of the same sort of situation here.
Okay, Ryan, thank you. Ryan Riley. We are going to breaking news as we speak. New details coming in right now on Pentagon plans to bolster the U.S. presence in the Middle East. To help respond to any potential Iranian attack on Israel, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has signed orders to move several ships, fighter jets, and ballistic missile capabilities into the region. It comes after the apparent assassination of a Hamas leader in Iran last week, as well as a top Hezbollah commander in Lebanon. Israel has not claimed responsibility for those killings, but it is bracing for Iranian retaliation. We're joined now by Ellison Barber, who's on the ground in Tel Aviv, and also our Pentagon correspondent, Courtney Cubie. Courtney, you're breaking news for us right now from the Pentagon. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so Tom, this is something we've been waiting for. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin got what's called an orders book here yesterday, and we've been expecting some sort of announcement or decision on additional capabilities that would flow to the Middle East towards Israel, where Ellison is right now, as an effort to not only offer more deterrence from the ongoing escalation that's been happening in the Middle East, frankly, specifically over the last week or so, but also to be prepared in case Iran responds. So what we're looking at here, Tom, there is a U.S. aircraft carrier in the region, in the Central Command region right now, the USS Theodore Roosevelt. The USS Abraham Lincoln is going to move in that direction. It's in the Pacific Command area now. It's going to move there to replace the Theodore Roosevelt. Now, coming with that, the Carrier Strike Group are additional cruisers and destroyers. Why that's so important? They come with ballistic missile defense capabilities. That means they have the ability to shoot down an incoming ballistic missile. Of course, they also have offensive capability, but in this case, what they really are needed for is to be able to intercept or stop incoming projectiles. In addition to that, the U.S. is also moving a fighter squadron of aircraft to a base in the region. Why that's significant is because these are the sorts of aircraft that also have the ability to shoot down incoming projectiles, particularly drones. Think back to April, when there was another period of escalation between Israel and Iran, when Iran fired off hundreds of projectiles towards Israel. Many of those were drones, where these kinds of fighter aircraft have the ability to stop those. In addition to that, the U.S. is also looking towards some land-based ballistic missile capabilities for additional air defenses that they're moving in. So all in all here, many of these capabilities are moving around within the region. They're already deployed. They're moving between, in some cases, the Pacific Command up towards the European Command or Middle East or whatever it is. But this is, at the end of the day, an influx or a shoring up of several thousand additional U.S. military forces and capabilities. Again, the Pentagon is stressing this is not only for deterrence, it's also for defense of the U.S. Military, of their bases, of their facilities in the region, but also to help defend Israel from what is expected to be some sort of a response from Iran.
Hey, Courtney, you know, back in April, the Iranians telegraphed that they were going to have an attack coming. They gave everybody time to prepare. And then as soon as the attack was launched and over, they said, OK, we're done, essentially. Are they telegraphing anything similar? Is this almost imminent in the view of the Pentagon?
It's hard to say. I mean, I have to say, I don't get the sense that this is imminent, but I do get the sense that something is expected to happen. The timeline is still very fuzzy right now. And remember, at the end of the day, it's up to Iran what they want to do here. I also would caution people against this idea, of looking at what happened in April when, again, there was this escalation. And Iran, the attack by Iran was very significant. It was fortunate that the U.S. and Israel and other partners and allies were able to intercept so many of those incoming missiles, projectiles, drones. I would caution against assuming that this retaliation or response by Iran is going to be identical. We just don't know that at this point. You know, it could be larger, it could be smaller. We just don't know. The only thing that seems pretty certain at this point, Tom, is U.S. officials feel there will be some sort of response from Iran, and they believe it is in the coming days.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Let's get to Allison Barber, who's on the ground in Tel Aviv. And pick up there, Allison, if you would. You and I talked about an hour ago about what is the feeling, the sense on the ground. And you had said people are nervous, right? What's the sense right now? You're into the Sabbath. It's Saturday morning.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because, of course, people, an average citizen, is going to look back to a reference point, right? And that's why I think April is something that so many people are thinking of, at least when it comes to people just living their day-to-day life and trying to guess what might come next. And we don't know exactly what Iran will do, but they have been very specific and strong on their language. The Ayatollah Khamenei is saying specifically, we believe that Haniyeh was our guest. He was in our territory, and it is our duty, he said, to seek revenge. That sort of language paired with what people saw happen in April, they're looking at that and saying, okay, well, that was an attack specifically on Iranian generals that didn't actually take place on Iranian soil. They still had a really big reaction in April. If they're saying they're going to do it now, we believe them. We want to be ready for it because we think it could be that or even bigger, because it feels like the stakes are higher. It's a bigger name that was killed. It was deep within Iranian territory in their capital city when their new president was being inaugurated, and they had a lot of allies, people that they consider to be dignitaries, important people in their country, and their security system failed in an epic way. So the mood here is incredibly tense because people don't know exactly what to expect, but they do think that it will be big, that it will be serious, and they know Iran has the capabilities to swing and swing hard if they choose to do so. Whether that's in a week, 2 weeks, or a few months from here, people are ready for it, or at least trying mentally to be ready for that possibility because they don't know exactly what it would look like. But it's a scary time here because it means what city could be targeted and how big could it be, and people just don't know. And the unknown adds to that uncertainty, that fear that is on the ground, even though people are going about their normal lives, because what other choice, Tom, do they really have?
Yeah. As a reminder, we believe the Israelis have taken out a senior Hezbollah leader and 2 senior Hamas leaders over the course of the past few weeks. What do we know right now about the Hamas leadership in particular following these killings?
Yeah, so it's interesting because when you're thinking about Hamas, they have sort of multiple different layers of leadership, if you will, or different kind of arms. They have some that are inside of Gaza, some that are outside of, right? And when we're talking about Ismail Haniyeh, he was a part of the Politburo, the political wing of Hamas. They are based in Qatar, in Doha. He was one of the main negotiators when it comes to hostage releases and ceasefires. When you're looking at that other Hamas leader you showed on the screen there, Mohammed Def, he was in charge of the military wing inside of Gaza. He, along with a man named Yahya Sinwar, were supposed to be and believed by Israel
Israel to be the masterminds behind what happened on October 7th. Since we have had so many high-profile figures seemingly killed by Israeli airstrikes and or Israeli intelligence moves, it seems that most of the power right now is consolidated with Yahya Sinwar, who is inside of Gaza. According to Israeli forces, he has been hiding in tunnels for the 300-plus days of war, and they have tried to find him again and again. As far as we know, from what Israel has said, he is still alive. He seems to be currently the most powerful living figure within Hamas right now, certainly one of the most well-known in this region. But it is likely that we will see replacements come quickly for the others who have passed away. There are already names that are being thrown around when it comes to the political side of things in Qatar, and that should probably happen in the days ahead. Tom?
Okay, Ellison, we're going to keep your camera up and available, and we'll watch you closely. Let us know if you have any developments. Thank you very much. Ellison is in Israel, as we said. Here at home, a weaker than expected jobs report today is sparking concern about a possible U.S. recession. Possible. The Labor Department reports the U.S. added only 114,000 jobs in July. Now, that was far fewer than experts had expected. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.3%, up from 4.1% in June. And that sent the stock market into a dive. The Dow Jones 30, the tech and biotech-heavy NASDAQ, and the broader S&P 500 all lost ground, 1.5% to 2.5%. But the NASDAQ is now down more than 10% from its recent highs. And the jobs numbers have renewed some concern about a potential recession. So will the Fed be forced to cut rates? And what are the challenges for the next president? NBC's Brian Chung has the breakdown.
Inflation under the Biden-Harris administration hit a 40-year high. And while the pace of price increases has dramatically declined since peaking in the summer of 2022, things are still about 20% more expensive than they were at the start of Biden's term. Former President Trump making it a core part of his campaign.
We will end inflation and we will make America great again.
But it's actually a second Trump term that some economists are worried about when it comes to inflation.
The outlook under Trump is decidedly more inflationary.
The primary reason for why a Trump administration could lead to price hikes, making it costlier to import goods into the U.S. Trump is threatening to slap a 60% tariff on goods from China, a top trade partner, with a 10% levy on nearly everything else coming in from abroad.
Countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China.
Mark Sobel worked at the Treasury Department under administrations from both parties.
Cost of tariffs will largely be passed on to consumers, and the Peterson Institute has estimated that Trump's tariffs could add $1,700 a year to the average household's costs.
Then there are tax cuts. A central accomplishment of his previous term, Trump has promised to extend those tax cuts and entertain new ones too, like making tips tax-free.
That might pump up demand and add to inflationary pressures.
Translation, more spending that might encourage companies to raise prices. Finally, there's Trump's pledge to crack down on illegal border crossings and deport undocumented immigrants.
By this time next year, America's borders will be strong, sealed, and secure.
Sobel warning that could force employers to pay more for labor.
Employers are going to have to bid up costs, and you're going to have to pay more as a consumer.
Trump still citing inflation as he attacks his new opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, who admits Americans are feeling the pinch.
While inflation is down and wages are up, prices are still too high.
But Biden dropping out may be helping her out. A new Bloomberg Morning Consult poll showing Harris cut into Trump's lead on the issue of inflation by more than half with swing state voters. Still, for undecided Americans, Harris will have to answer criticism that Biden policies like stimulus checks and the expanded child tax credit contributed to the inflation spike. The administration acknowledging American worries about affordability with a new push against junk fees.
On day one, I will take on price gouging and bring down costs.
While the public awaits more comprehensive plans from both candidates, the Federal Reserve is attempting to do its part to curb inflation. The central bank's high interest rates have already helped, but with new fears of a worsening slowdown in the jobs market, there are expectations it could be cutting rates at a time where inflationary policies from the White House may be on the way too.
All right, NBC's Brian Chung joins us now. All right, Brian, importantly, there are still more job openings than workers. Layoffs have not picked up. Productivity is up. But the market is clearly betting that the Fed will, in fact, cut rates in September, maybe more than a quarter point, right?
Yeah, and look, when it comes to that disappointing jobs report, this is by no standards an economy that looks like it's in recession, at least right now. There's an official organization that's in charge of calling that. They haven't called it. But look, at the end of the day, for the Federal Reserve, they've been holding interest rates high. That has had the impact of taking inflation down, but it could also have the impact of making that unemployment rate rise further. That's the reason why markets are now pricing in an overwhelming majority chance that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates by a 0.5 percentage point, not just a 0.25 percentage point, in their next meeting in September. And by the way, there have been some questions about whether or not Hurricane Beryl had an impact on this jobs data. The BLS saying it had no discernible effect. So we'll have to see whether or not other data from July corroborates that, Tom.
All right, good info. Brian, thank you very much. When we come back, Aurora alert. A magnetic storm could be bringing the northern lights as far south as New York this weekend. We'll tell you where you've got to be to catch them. Then we're on the ground in Paris, where athletes are making history right and left. But guess what? Some folks are questioning whether a few of those competitors should even be competing. Yeah, we're going to take you there coming up. All right, we are officially headed to Paris, where Taiwan is standing by one of its boxers as a lot of tension is bubbling around her gender. We're talking about Taiwanese boxer Lin Yuting coming off a big win today. By the way, she took down a boxer from Uzbekistan. Both Yuting and an Algerian boxer are under scrutiny after they failed to meet gender eligibility tests at the Women's World Boxing Championship last year. Essentially, they have male chromosomes, despite competing as women. Meanwhile, Team USA keeps racking up the medals as Grant Fisher becomes only the second American in more than 50 years to medal in the 10,000 meters, bringing home the bronze. NBC's Keir Simmons joins us now. Keir, also a great story in that 10,000-meter race from the gold medal winner, Ugandan, Joshua Cheptegei. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think you must have some producers there who are kind of Olympics details super fans. That's quite a question, Tom. Cheptegei, though, okay. Sure, he is quite a success. He has made, Olympic history with the best results so far in the 10,000. He's the first Ugandan to win a gold medal in that 10,000. So good for him. That's great. And I'm delighted to talk about something other than Team USA winning gold after gold after gold after gold. We're going to get back to that, aren't we? We're going to get back. I know we are. I can tell we're going to get back to that, Tom.
Well, all right. Well, listen, a big swimming day, but Keir, as our man on the ground, I'm not going to ask you about gold after gold. You're a Brit. You're not an American.
You are, though.
Listen, I'm not going there. What are you most looking forward to going into the weekend since you're there in Paris?
I'm looking forward to Team USA winning more gold medals, Tom. Let's just take a look at what's coming up. We've got Simone Biles in the women's vault final, already the most decorated Team USA gymnast in history. She's going to potentially get another gold. Sha'Carri Richardson in the women's 100-meter semi-final. She's a hopeful for Team USA in the 100 meters. Katie Ledecky, of course, making history in the swimming. Now she will be in the 800-meter freestyle final. Will she get another medal? She's got so many medals already for Team USA. So, there's a lot to look forward to if you support Team USA this weekend.
And we all do. Keir, merci.
And we all do, even this British guy.
Okay. Ciao. All right. Or we're going to make him an honorary American anyway. All right, over now to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Hunter Biden now set to face sentencing for his firearms case on November 13th, just a week after the presidential election. Remember, the president's son was found guilty on 3 felony charges. That was back in June for obtaining a firearm when he was addicted to drugs. Under federal sentencing guidelines, he could get more than a year in prison, but the judge could sentence him to more or less time than that. Number 2, Intel says it's cutting 15% of its workforce, about 15,000 jobs. It had a huge loss on Wall Street today. The stock dropped 26% after they missed earnings. That's the biggest drop in their stock in 50 years. Intel right now hoping to save $10 billion in 2025 as it tries to turn the corner and compete, again, cutting 15% of its workforce. The CEO says the layoffs are the hardest thing he's ever done in his career. Number three, one of the major fires raging across Colorado now being investigated as arson. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Department says it believes the quarry fire was human-caused, but could not share any other details, citing the investigation. Fires are burning across the West, with California's Park Fire now the fourth largest in the state history. Number four, have you always wanted to see the Northern Lights? Well, we've got good news. NOAA says the lights will be likely visible this weekend in parts of the Northeast, the upper Midwest, and across the rest of the northern U.S., all because of a geometric storm watch that's been issued in anticipation of what's called a coronal mass ejection. You've heard that term before, CME. We've had a year of CMEs and terrific northern light shows thanks to the sun. Number five, the United States men's soccer team has been eliminated from the Olympics. They lost 4-0 to Morocco. See, Keir, it's not all gold. It was in the quarterfinals. They had a good run through. It was the first time the men made it this far in the Olympics since the year 2000. Still to come from us, and then the unprecedented show of unity, both here and across the pond, for a country in the midst of turmoil. Take a look. We're coming back. Okay, we told you earlier about the Justice Department suing TikTok today over child privacy, and big tech and regulators wrestling over how exactly to protect kids online. One potential answer came from the Senate this week, which overwhelmingly passed two huge bills on kids' digital safety and privacy. NBC's Julie Sirkin spoke with a mother whose son died by suicide after she says he was bullied on social media, and she says legislation like this could save lives.
Our stories are much more powerful than the money that big tech has.
The ayes are 91, the nays are 3, and the motion is agreed to.
For Kristen Bride, this is the moment that she and too many other parents have been waiting for.
We have started a movement, and we will see changes.
The Senate passing two monumental bills this week that would update data privacy laws for children for the first time in 3 decades. It would ban tech companies from collecting data on minors and hold online platforms legally liable for pushing content to kids that could harm their mental health.
We have been coming to D.C. telling the stories of the very worst day of our life.
Kristen's son, Carson, was relentlessly bullied on a popular social media app by anonymous schoolmates. According to his mom, she said she tried everything to keep him safe online. But it didn't matter. On June 23, 2020, at just 16 years old, Carson died by suicide in his Oregon home while his parents were sleeping.
Do you think that legislation like this could have helped save him?
I absolutely do.
The push led by an unlikely bipartisan duo, Marsha Blackburn and Richard Blumenthal.
These big tech companies have been aggravating a youth mental health crisis.
There are things that children should not be exposed to. You can't take them into a strip show. You can't sell alcohol. You can't sell tobacco to children. Now, we're looking at the virtual space.
Critics say the bills could lead to censorship by empowering judges to decide which kind of content harms kids. The ACLU calls the bill dangerous and says the last thing students and parents need is another act of government censorship, deciding which educational resources are appropriate for their families.
I do think it's a dilemma. We've almost waited a little bit too late.
Yosei Marie Griffiths is a data privacy expert who testified before Congress the last time they made laws to protect kids online, in 1998.
What happens if these bills don't get to the president's desk?
If we don't start doing this now, the future is going to be very dangerous for young people and for old people.
Some of big tech disagrees. Meta, for example, telling NBC News it supports the development of age-appropriate standards for teens online, but rather than regulation of its platforms, they suggest app stores require parental approval at the point of download. Bride says that's not nearly enough.
We need to be thinking about the mental health and well-being of our kids with these design features that are addicting them and feeding them very, very disturbing content.
Julie Sirkin, NBC News.
Julie, thank you. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. You know, it's tough to read, watch, or listen to everything, so our teams around the world have selected a few highlights. Here's a look at what they're watching. We call it the Global. In India, rescue teams searching for dozens of missing in the Himalayas after heavy rain hit the area this week. The chief minister there says over 40 people are missing, possibly more. You can see rescuers on the scene crossing rocky terrain to find people. Emergency teams say they've already saved almost 1,000 people stranded in the mountains. From Egypt, scientists now have an explanation for a startling screaming mummy. Just a warning, though, she looks a little freaky. The woman discovered in an archaeological expedition with her mouth wide open like she was mummified mid-shriek. Scientists think she experienced a spasm when she died, but they're not completely sure what she died from or if this explains other mummies with screaming appearances. In Spain, locals in Barcelona are calling for more action after the mayor proposed a shutdown of Airbnbs. Remember, people protested against over-tourism there last month? They used water guns to spray tourists away, so the mayor pledged to ban short-term rentals by 2028. But some locals believe it's not enough of a solution. More than 26 million tourists visited Barcelona last year, and the city expects a record number in 2024. An unprecedented statement of unity tonight with top lawmakers on the House and Senate Foreign Affairs committees and their counterparts in 15 European countries are condemning the Maduro regime in Venezuela and the results of the disputed election there. A joint memo, the lawmakers now call for transparent and independent verification of the election results, saying the regime's deliberate efforts to undermine the country's electoral processes are unacceptable and must be condemned. It comes as opposition leader Maria Corina Machado says she is in hiding and fearing for her life. Machado's party released this surveillance video earlier today saying masked assailants ransacked party headquarters and stole documents and equipment. NBC's Guad Venegas is joining me now. Guad, how much of the world believes this election was stolen? And I'm just curious, is there any sense at all on the ground there that things could get violent?
Tom, what we've heard now from Maduro and the authority is that they won the election. They've called for the Supreme Court to investigate into these election results, but the Supreme Court are allies of Maduro, as are the members of the Electoral Council. So there's not a lot of faith that Maduro or the members of these agencies will change the path that they've taken, right? Now, the international community is supporting Edmundo Gonzalez, the representative, the presidential candidate from the opposition, more and more. But that's not changing things and turning for Venezuela. Now, the three countries that could make a difference are Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. Three allies of Maduro, Mexico being one of the most important ones. They are asking for the Electoral Council to release the details, the information from the voting machines and the local municipalities that would prove that Maduro won according to the count that they have. A member of the opposition, a spokesperson, spoke to NBC News earlier today, and this is what he had to say about the election.
We have the proof with the voting records. We have the proof with different recounts that were made. We have the proof with the exit polls. And, you know, many of those soldiers are suffering the same problems as many Venezuelans. They cannot eat 3 times a day. They don't have access to electricity, to water, to internet.
He brings up the soldiers. The military gives a lot of strength to Maduro. They've been supporting him throughout the years. Now, you ask if things could turn violent. Well, the opposition has called for a rally, a massive protest to take place tomorrow in Venezuela and also in countries abroad. Let's keep in mind that a lot of Venezuelans have left the country, so we expect these protests to take place in different cities and, of course, in Venezuela. So we'll have to pay attention and see how things go there. Tom.
Okay, we'll be watching it. Guad, thank you very much. Coming up next, why climate scientists are sounding the alarm as California faces threats against its sequoia trees. Stay with us. Okay, to the original right now, in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching, and this time it's all about the raging wildfires out west. Firefighters in Colorado are making progress against a number of major fires which have already killed 1 person. And one of those fires now is being investigated as a possible arson. Meanwhile, in Northern California, the massive park fire continues to grow, burning roughly 400,000 acres. It's now the fourth largest wildfire in the state's history. As firefighters there race to save people and homes, park rangers are trying to spare the trees. NBC's Steve Patterson takes us inside the battle to save the giant sequoias and the surprising fight from some environmentalists.
There's no good way to describe the overwhelming awe of California's General Sherman. At 3 blue whales tall, 400 elephants heavy, 2 car lengths wide, this giant among giant sequoias is the largest known tree in the world. But as we learned, even one of the biggest, baddest things nature can produce are far from invincible, especially now. We were there inside Sequoia National Park when a team of scientists scaled it for the first time because, well, they're worried. New sequoia threats like tiny invasive beetles are compounding climate change, producing larger droughts and bigger fires.
We now know in the era of climate change that we have fires of great intensity, and they have started to take its toll on the population.
In 2020, the Castle Fire killed about 14% of all giant sequoias. The next year, in the next fire, we lost another 5%.
We thought, wow, this could be a problem.
Sequoia expert Christy Brigham is leading the effort along with the National Park Service to protect the trees.
We had 27 groves that burned in those fires. The death of the big trees in those areas was 90% or higher. So that's not good. That's not in their evolutionary history.
The agency is now part of a larger organization, including the state, the Forest Service, and local indigenous tribes called the Giant Sequoia Lands Coalition. And they've been busy.
What you're looking at, these are actually giant sequoias. They are, of course, the seedling version. Park officials here say they planted about 60,000 of them in places where they're needed most, which is important. There's only 80 groves across the entire world.
Well, we've got another 3.5 feet to go.
But an opposing group of scientists says, well, to put it bluntly, they're barking up the wrong tree.
This was not a catastrophe. This was not the doom of the sequoia groves. It's actually, the hope for the future of these groves.
Chad Hansen is leading the charge against what the Sequoia Lands Coalition is doing. But to understand why, you have to understand how California's wildfire fighting strategy is changing. California has a history of trying to suppress every fire. Just ask Smokey the Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
But in the last few years, as wildfires got more and more out of control, the state has moved toward fighting fire with fire. At least a little bit. The idea is that controlled burns, now sometimes called prescribed burns, will help cut down on fuel for when a major fire strikes. That's not controversial, but just how much human intervention is needed is.
The way we've been doing things, suppressing fires, keeping fires out of the groves, that's actually killing the sequoia groves.
Hansen points out that the sequoia's bark serves as armor, able to withstand heat that would destroy other species. And the flames are a big part of how they naturally sprout, the fire opening up thousands of tiny cones that fall from the trees, releasing seeds that eventually take root. And he's concerned about 2 major forest management techniques being used, thinning the forest by cutting down smaller trees and removing dead debris.
We're removing some of the very best wildlife habitat in the forest, because it turns out that a standing dead tree, what we call a snag, is actually more important for more wildlife species than a standing live tree of the same size. Wow, it's not even close. That's the interesting thing.
It's not even
close. Yeah.
So a dead tree has more value to wildlife than a live tree.
Far more. It's the single most ecologically important element of a forest ecosystem, hands down, no comparison.
Last year, he and several advocate groups sued the National Forest Service to stop what was coined the Fuels Reduction Project. The National Forest Service responding that its strategy is as old as some of these massive trees themselves, saying in part over a century of scientific data confirms that strategically designed fuels reduction treatments can reduce wildfire risks. Those risks just too high for the forest managers, tasked with protecting our most majestic groves. They believe that famous old General Sherman could use a human helping hand.
We're in the forever business. If you were killing 20% of all the millennial sequoias every few years, would you have this forest? You wouldn't.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Good reporting from Steve. Still to come, oh, baby, she did it again. Britney Spears out with another potential big hit, this time on the big screen. We'll tell you all about it coming up next. Okay, this is what you waited for. Learning more tonight about Britney Spears' biopic that'll be based on her best-selling memoir, The Woman in Me. Universal Pictures announced it has landed the rights. John M. Chu will direct. Mark Platt will produce. They're the minds behind films like In the Heights and the upcoming movie Wicked. Full disclosure, NBC and Universal are owned by Comcast. We've seen musician biopics before, right? Here are some of them, including Whitney Cash. I'll make that Whitney Houston, Johnny Cash. They never got married. Also Elvis. Some of those biopics grossed hundreds of millions of dollars, but a lot of them were made after artists died. It's rare to see a living superstar musician, some would even say living legend, do a biopic like this. But Britney's always been a bit of a trendsetter, so this could be the start of a new strategy for the ultra-famous and the successful. Or could it be? Let's bring in our media analyst, Paul Garabedian, for this. Paul, what more do we know about why she might do a movie like this? She's faced a lot of scrutiny in her life, right? What's the incentive here?
That's right. And I think every musical artist would love to have their own biopic and have their life immortalized on the big screen, from the Buddy Holly story to La Bamba, Bohemian Rhapsody. And as you pointed out, the fact that a lot of these artists had passed away by the time they were memorialized on that big screen, this is a little different. Britney Spears is definitely around and very famous and an icon. And I think it's really cool under the auspices of Universal, who have really hit all the right notes when it comes to putting out movies like Straight Outta Compton, 8 Mile, Wicked upcoming. So this is like the perfect time to do it. And I think a lot of other musical artists may be a little jealous because they're going to want their own big screen treatment.
Yeah, Britney has not done a whole lot of promo for this or her book, right? Just one post on X saying that she's excited to share with her fans that she's been working on a secret project with Mark Platt. Do we know how involved she's going to be on this, or is she handing all editorial control over to him?
We'll have to see. I think she's going to want to have a hand in this. And I mean, no question that when you have an artist that has been, controversial at times, but definitely somebody to watch, I think this is going to be great for her. And, famously last year, she was doing a dance with knives, and, she's never out of the news. But I think it really is something where you have audiences interested. And to see a movie like this on the big screen is great, not only because of the huge screen, but the great sound in a movie theater. And from Taylor Swift to Beyonce and all these great music-oriented movies on the big screen, it's a big deal, for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll be worth watching, and these are movies that really do capture the public's attention. Paul, thanks very much. Good insight. We'll be watching closely. That's a wrap for this hour on NBC News Now, but the coverage resumes right now on News Now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.